Shalom, and welcome to this week's Hebrew class. And today, as we have been doing, we're going through the book of John, but we are at Yehuchanan or Yochanan in the modern Hebrew, John in the English, chapter 7, verses 14 to 17. So let us begin, and I hope that you're enjoying some of these lessons. First, we have a chart of what's called the Nikud, the vowel marking. And then we have these great resources which will help you invariably in your study of the Hebrew, especially the root words, which we can look up, the three-letter roots. We can look them up in the Do It In Hebrew Dictionary. So let us begin. And as you can see in verse 14, it's represented with a yod, which has a value of 10, and a dalet, being the fourth letter of the alphabet, it has a value of 4. So we're in 14. And then we go through the letters. Vav yod he yod, bet chet zade yod, yod mem yod, he chet gimel, vav yod he vav shin ayin, ayin lamed he. And let us read it now. Vehi, and it was. Often translate, and it came to pass, which is how they've done it in the English. Ba chatzi, in the middle. So why is it middle? If we look down here, chetzi is a masculine noun meaning half, half past, or partially. Then we have chatza, which is a kal verb meaning to halve, to split, or to divide. So we could say in the middle. Yemei, the days of, and that's a construct form. He chag, it means the days of the feast. V'Yahushua, and Yahusha, Allah, he went up. Because we know al means to go up, to ascend. And the English is, and it came to pass. After the middle of the days of the feast, Yeshua went up. And so let us now read that without any aids. Vehi b'chatzi yemei hechag ve'Yahushua Allah. And it was in the middle of the days of the feast, and Yahusha, he went up. And then we turn to part B. We have an Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Mem, Kuf, Dalet, Shin. Vav, Yod, Lamed, Mem, Dalet. And we read it. El, meaning two. Often when it's connected to something, it just is taken as two. Ha, Mikdash, which is literally the holy place, because it comes from Kadosh, or Kadash. But it's often translated the temple, because we know the temple was the holy place. Ve'lamed, and he taught. So the translation, Yeshua went up to the temple and taught. Now I've given you also Mikdash, which is a masculine noun, which can mean sanctuary, temple, shrine, or holy place. Then I've given you limed, which is a piel verb, to teach, to explain, to instruct. And the vav has the purpose of reversing the tense, and that's why we can say, and he taught. Therefore, it goes from to teach to taught. And then we have lamad, which is a kal verb, to learn or to acquire knowledge. So I'm just giving you these extra ones to help you understand it a bit better. So let us now read it. El ha mikdash ve'lamed. To the holy place, and he taught. And now we come to 15, represented with a tet, which has a value of 9. It's the 9th letter of the alphabet, and we have a vav, which we know is the 6th letter of the alphabet. And let us go through the letters. Vav yod tav, mem, hey, vav, hey, yod, hey, vav, dalet, yod, mem, safit, vav, yod, aleph, mem, resh, vav, bet, mem, hey, yod, dalet, ayin, zion, hey. And we read, vayit mehu, vayit mehu, and they were amazed. So the root of that, of course, is tamea, or tamah, to being the kal verb, to be amazed, to wonder, and temeha is an adjective meaning amazed or astonished. And they were amazed. Ha Yehudim, meaning the Jews, of course. Va yom ru, and they said, ba me, in how. So if we look down here, ma as an adverb can mean what, how, whatever. So you could say in what or how. Yada, he knows, because it's like a perfect form. Ze, this. The Jews were amazed and said, how does he know these? And so now we can read that. Vayit mehu ha-Yehudim vayomru ba-me yada ze. And they were amazed, the Yehudim, and they said, in how he knows this? And so we turn to part B. We have a samek, fe, resh, because there's no dot in that one. It's a fe, and that's a resh. Vav, he, vav, aleph, lamed, mem, dalet. And we read, sefer, sefer, scroll. And we know that sefer here as a masculine noun means a literary work, a scroll, or even a book. And I've also given you safar, which is a kal verb to enumerate, to count, and siper, which is a piel verb to relate, to recount, or to tell. So just different ways of saying it, but this is like a noun, a scroll. Vehu, and he, lo, not, lamad, studied, right? So lamad down here, it means kal verb to learn, to acquire knowledge. So how does he know this, know these scrolls, not having studied or not having acquired knowledge? And then we read it. Sefer vehu lo lamad. Scroll, and he not studied or acquired knowledge. And so we come to 16, represented with a tet having a value of 9 and a zion having a value of 7. And we go through letters. Vav, yod, ayin, nun, safit. Aleph, tav, mem, safit. Mem at the end of a word. Yod, hey, vav, shin, ayin. Vav, yod, aleph, mem, resh. Lamed, kuf, chet, and yod. And we read it. Vaya'an. And he answered. Now the root of that is ana, which is a kal verb to answer, to reply, or to respond. And he answered, O tam, them, Yahushua, or Yahusha, va yomar, and he said, likhi, my lesson. So, let's have a look. When it's lekach, that's a masculine noun. It means a lesson. However, when it's lakach, it's a kal verb to take or to acquire. Because it's like saying we take a lesson, or we take to learn something, right? We receive it. But in this case, it's noun, so we can say my lesson. And the my, of course, is the chirik and the yod at the end. That's my lesson. Yeshua answered them and said, my teaching. And then we can read it. Vaya'am otam Yahushua vayomar likchi. And he answered them, Yahusha, and he said, my lesson. And we come to Padri, we have Lamed, Aleph, Shin, Resh, Yod, Hey, Vav, Aleph, Kaf, Yod, Aleph, Mem Fit, Shin, Lamed, Chet, and Yod. So I put an arrow there to tell you that this dot would be best placed about there, so we don't get confused whether it's a shin or a sin. That's why I put the arrow there, right? So we read it. Lo, not. Sheli. So, not belonging to me. And it's often translated as not mine, right? So the share at the beginning is usually said like here. We've got shell, right? Shell is a prep meaning belonging to, of, made of. So shali is often translated as mine. So, not belonging to me, who? It. And I've added, it can be also it is. And then we've got ki im, and often they come together. And as they come together, they mean but. And then we've got shel, meaning belonging to. Shol chi, which is my sending one. And generally it's translated as belongs to the one who sent me, because that probably sounds better, but literally it's my sending one. So my teaching is not mine, but the one who sent me. And I've also given you shalach, which is a kol verb to send, to dispatch. And so we read it. Lo, sheli, hu, ki, im, shel, shol, chi. Not belonging to me, it is, but belongs to my sending one. Because this is like sholach, sholchi, it's like in a participle form. And so now we come to 17a, represented with the Yod 10, Zion 7. And then we go Hey, Chet, Fe, Zade, Sofit. Zade at the end of a word. Lamed, Ayin, Sin this time, Vav, Tav, Resh, Zade, Vav, Nun, Vav, Yod, Dalet, Ayin, Lamed, Kuf, Chet, Yod, Aleph, Mem, Sofit, Mem, Aleph, Tav. And we notice we've got a cholim above here, so that tells us actually that the vav is not pronounced, but it's only the vowel mark. So we read it. He-cha-fetz. He-cha-fetz. The one desiring. If we look at chafatz, it's a kol verb to want, to desire. And chafetz is a masculine noun meaning a desire, a want, a wish. Right, so here we're seeing it used as the one desiring, la-a-sot, to do, and we can see that's like a construct form with the tav at the end. Retso-no, his will. The his, of course, is the cholim at the end with the vav. His, and then the root of it, of course, is retzon, which means will, desire. And then we have yeda, he knows. Likchi, my lesson. Im, which can be used as if, me'et, which is from, followed by like a grammar marker. If from. So the one who desires to do his will knows whether my teaching is from. And I've given you again lekach, which was a lesson, and lekach, which means to take or to acquire. So now we can read that without any aids. Hechafetz la'asot retzono yeda likhi im me'et. The one desiring to do his will, of course that's Elohim's will, he knows my lesson, if from. And so we turn to part B, and we have an Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yod, Mem, Safit, Hey, Vav, Aleph, Aleph, Vav, Mem, Nun, Fe, Shin, Yod, Aleph, Dalet, Bayit, because of the dot, Resh. And we read, Elohim, Elohim. Who, he, or it is, or meaning or, me, naf, she, me means from, and of course the chirik and the yod at the end is my, and of course the root is nefesh, which is soul or being, from my soul or from my being or even from myself. So if my teaching is from Elohim or if I am speaking from myself. And of course the root of it is nefesh, feminine noun meaning soul, spirit, person, self. So now we can read that. And it is Elohim, who, mi, naf, she, adaber. Elohim, it is, or from my being, I do speak. So from my own being, I am speaking. That's sort of what he's trying to say. And now we are up to our revision. And so we begin by saying a yod is 10, dalet is 4, we know we're in 14. Vayhi, and it was. Ba, chatzi, in the middle, or in the half, right, in the middle is probably better. Ye may, which means in the middle of the days of. He chag, the feast. But Yahushua, and Yahushua, Allah, he went up. And the translation, and it was in the middle of the days of the feast, and Yahushua, he went up. L2, HaMikdash, the holy place, the sanctuary, the temple. Velamed, and he taught to the holy place, to the temple, and he taught. And we have a tet, value of 9, vav, value of 6. 9 plus 6 is 15. And then we read, Vayit mehu, and they marveled. Ha-Yehudim, the Jews, Vayom Ru, and they said, Ba me, in what or in how Yada he knows, they this. And they were amazed, the Yehudim, and they said, in how he knows this. And then we come to 15b, which is Sefer, meaning scroll, this scroll from the previous, right? But who and he, lo not lamad, has acquired knowledge. Scroll, and he not acquired knowledge or studied. And then we have a tet, value of 9. Zion, value of 7. 9 and 7 is 16, so we're in 16. Vaya'an, and he answered, Otam them, Yahushua, Vayomar, and he said, Likhi, my lesson. And he answered them, Yahushua, and he said, my lesson. Oops, I'm going to do that. Lo not sheli, belonging to me, which can be mine, not mine. Who it is, ki imbat, shall belonging shall he, belonging my sending one. So belonging to my sending one. Not belongs to me, it is, but belongs to my sending one, or belongs to the one who sent me. And then we come to Yod 10, Zion 7. So we know we're in 17 now. He cha fates. The one desiring, la'asot, to do, retso, no, meaning his will, yeda, he knows. Likhi, he knows my lesson, im, if, me, from, and that's a grammar marker 8. Me, 8. The one who desires to do his will, that's Elohim's will, he knows my lesson, if from, grammar marker. Elohim, who, and we could say it is, or me nafshi, from my soul or from myself, adaber, I speak. Elohim it is, or from my being, or from myself, I do speak. And finally, I wanted to just include this note as well. The note on the name. In our reading, I've included the name of our Messiah in the various forms to show its common usage, and so I will explain the forms here. Yeshua, which could possibly be an ancient Aramaic way of saying it, being a contracted form of the Hebrew Yehoshua, with the Masoretic vowel markings to mean salvation in modern Hebrew. Yeshua, however, can only be found in the books of Ezra, Nehemiah, and Chronicles, much of what was written in Aramaic. Its root is Yahweh and Yasha, and they're the two Strong's numbers, if you want to look it up. The root of Shua, however, is Shava, or Strong's number H7768, meaning to cry out for help, therefore freedom from some trouble. Therefore, Yeshua could mean he shall cry out for help. Just looking at the real basic meaning of it. Now, remembering that Yehoshua follows Masoretic vowel markings of about the 11th century, other forms are considered by many to give a more precise meaning. So we also have this version, Yahusha, being Hebrew, being a combination of Yahweh or Yahuwah plus Yasha. Now, if we look at the word Yasha from Strong's H3467 as a hifil verb, it means to save, to deliver, to rescue, as shown in the Dead Sea Scrolls for the name Joshua, which appears as Yahusha and Yahushua. And we see that if we look carefully here, we can see it's Yahusha, and down here it's Yahushua. So both forms are in the Dead Sea Scrolls for Joshua. And so, not to get bogged down in the names, I have in my lessons given the various forms to appease those with their preference on the name, noting that a majority use Yeshua in modern times. But just because it's most common doesn't always mean it's absolutely the only one that was ever used. And so we finally come to the vowel marks. And we can see here we have a kamatz, which is a longer sounding A. And then we have patak, which is a shorter sounding A. Zere, that's a longer E sound. And then we have segol, a shorter E. Then we have shava, which breaks the word into its syllables. We have cholam, that's the O sound. Then we have shuruk, that's like a short oo, and this is kubutz, which is a longer sounding oo. Then we have a combination of shava and segol. It's called a kataf segol. Then we have chirik, that's the I sound, and then we have kataf patak, the short A after the shva. And then we have kataf kamatz. Again, the kamatz, the longer A after the shava. And finally, we come to first the resources again, which I would encourage you. They are imperative that you use them because they will help dramatically in your study. And then we have all the chart of the value of the lessons. Value of the letters. So let's go through some of them. Zad is 90, Yod is 10, Vet is 2, He is 5, Tet is 9, Nun is 50, Resh is 200, Pei is 80, Mem is 40, Kuf is 100, Shin is 300, Lamed is 30. And that brings us to the end of our lesson for this week. We do pray that you are blessed by them and that you are encouraged to keep studying and keep learning, because what is our purpose of learning? We believe that Hebrew has its root in the Holy Tongue, and also it helps us by learning it to see if we can get more depth out of the original writing. We want the original, and understanding the original, we can do that by learning Hebrew. So we just want to wish you all the best. Shavua Tov. Have a blessed week in Yahusha or Yeshua's great and glorious name. Amen.